Hello and welcome. My name is Stella, and today we're going to be talking about the vampire virus. In other words, we're going to dive into what real diseases have influenced the vampire folklore. Tales of vampires date back to prehistoric times, from Mesopotamia's Lamashtu to the Philippines' Manananggal, all the way to 18th century Europe. This is where the modern myths of vampires really begin. These bedside terrors would raise up from the dead and prey on humans to suck their blood. And they might even be shiny? But could there be some truth to these horrifying myths? Let's dig deeper and find out. When I think of vampires, I think of 6 things. Number 1, bat transformation. Number 2, hyperaggression. Number 3, hydrophobia to holy water. Number 4, increased supernatural senses. Number 5, afraid of sunlight. And lastly, number 6, bloodthirsty. To take a look at these first few symptoms, let's look at the rabies virus. Rabies is a very, very infectious viral disease. It's transmitted through the bite or scratch of a rabid animal, typically bats, dogs, cats, or raccoons. Due to the virus's rod-like shape and the nucleoprotein antigens, or in other words, those little spiky bits on the outside of the capsule, it was placed within the genus Lyssavirus. This also includes the Lagos bat virus, the European bat virus, and of course, the rabies virus. Starting to know a pattern? Yeah, bats. Bats are amazing hosts for multiple zoonotic diseases, and they're often passed down to other animals or even humans. Could this be why they say vampires can turn into bats? The rabies virus affects the central nervous system, attacking the hypothalamus in the brain. The hypothalamus is a control center for multiple emotions such as anger and aggression, our hunger, and our sex drive. This is why symptoms of rabies can include delirium, anxiety, agitation, aggression, insomnia, and even hydrophobia. This is starting to sound like our vampire friend, huh? After all, they are night hunters. Speaking of hydrophobia, in the 18th century, it was thought that by pouring holy water around graves, it would prevent the vampires from rising at night. This was because these vampires were seen as creatures of the devil, and holy water would either injure or repel them. But how does this connect to rabies? Well, rabies-infected animals tend to have very severe reactions to water. Their throats will often spasm and might even close up if they try to drink it. This is because rabies lives mostly in our saliva. And by drinking water, it reduces that amount of saliva in our mouths, which would reduce the virus's ability to spread. Reactions to water can be so severe as even seizing or coming in and out of consciousness. This is why you see rabid animals being afraid of water. Another symptom of rabies would be dilated pupils or hypersensitivity to very loud sounds or even light. It's said that the sound of running water is enough to throw some rabid animals into chaos. Vampires, as we all know, also have a very high sensitivity to sounds and lights. You might even say they have supernatural senses. Now, to take a look at these other 2 symptoms, let's dive into porphyria. Porphyria, also known as the vampire disease, is responsible for 2 of the big vampire symptoms. Firstly, a weakness to sunlight, and secondly, their thirst for blood. So, why are people with this disease sensitive to sunlight? To answer that, we need to dive into what porphyria is. Porphyria is a group of inherited related diseases characterized by the body being unable to convert the compounds porphyrinogens into heme. Heme is found in our red blood cells and is responsible for carrying oxygen throughout our body. There are 2 different types of porphyria, but in this case, we're going to ignore the first one and just take a look at Porphyria cutea tardae. People with this condition lack the enzyme urod. Urod is responsible for breaking down uroporphinogen 3, and without it, this compound will build up in our blood. This compound is also responsible for this disease because when exposed to light, it will create singlet oxygen species. These singlet oxygen species are very reactive to normal human tissue. So, in other words, in sunlight, this chemical reaction will lead to very painful skin lesions. This makes people with porphyria very sensitive to sunlight. When exposed to sunlight, you'll often see their skin start to blister, and overall, it's just a very painful experience for them. Now, how does porphyria contribute to the bloodthirsty myth? Many people with this disease have very dark red, brown colored urine, and oftentimes people believe this is because they were drinking blood. As well, many of these pre-modern physicians believe that to cure this disease, the patient need to be bled, and that way they can get the bad blood out. To replenish the blood supply afterwards, they encourage their patients to drink animal blood, such as sheep's or pig blood, to replenish that blood they have lost. I'm sure if I saw someone drinking blood, I would also think they were a vampire. Okay. But how do we explain these post-mortem effects? In the 18th century, vampires were known for raising from the dead and hunting people down. And oftentimes, grave diggers would dig up their coffins and they would find these corpses with blood around their mouths and longer hair and longer nail beds, as if they were still growing. Well, there's a reason for that. When a body decomposes, the skin dehydrates and shrivels up, which makes the hair and the nails appear longer, when in actuality they have not grown at all. As well, we have microbes in our gut that are producing gases. These gases fill up our cavities, and if we have no way to release those gases, it will build up pressure until blood and excrement would seep out of our mouths. I know, kind of gross, but in the 18th century, this was far beyond what they knew in their medicine and research at the time. So in reality, these vampires might not have been real. Stories are told for generations, passed down by creative storytellers during ages of death and calamity. Many vampire tales erupted during epidemics throughout our history. Vampires might not have been real, but the diseases are, and it's important to stop the spread of diseases. It can be as easy as washing your hands or getting a proper vaccine, because you never know when a disease outbreak will happen again. And I, for one, don't want to be the inspiration for a new monster folklore. Thank you for watching.